Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So the next discussion will be about those things that break the fast and will necessitate the qada, make up for the fast, but will not necessitate expiation kafara that has to be given for the breaking of the fast. So to keep in mind over here, two conditions for the fast to be broken, period. The first condition is that whatever is ingested, whatever enters the body, it has to have the possibility of reaching the brain or the stomach. The second condition is that whatever enters into the body that breaks the fast has to enter through normal passages, meaning the mouth, the nose, or the anus. Now, moving on to the actual things that break the fast and will necessitate the qada makeup and will not necessitate the kafara, the expiation. So the first thing will be if a person eats or drinks in the morning thinking that the Fajr time, true dawn, has not entered yet. So he still thinks he has time to eat suhoor. But after he eats and drinks, he realizes that the Fajr time had already entered. Or, for example, during the evening, when it's time for a person to break his fast, a person thinks that sunset has already occurred and therefore he eats or drinks, and then later on he finds out that in actuality sunset had not occurred, Maghrib time had not entered, and he prematurely broke his fast. So in these situations, breaking his fast will necessitate the qada makeup, will not necessitate the kafara expiation. Next thing that will break a person's fast is the use of a suppository, which is basically a solid medicine or any other substance that is entered into the anus. This will break a person's fast, necessitate qada. Makeup will not necessitate kafara. Next thing that will break a person's fast is if a person eats something which is not normally eaten, nor is it used for medicinal purposes, like for example dirt, or for example toothpaste or mouthwash or things like this. The next thing is if a person is gargling water in his mouth, or he is rinsing his mouth with water, and he accidentally swallows the water while rinsing his mouth, on condition that he remembers that he's fasting, but he's conscious of the fact that he's fasting, but he still accidentally swallows the water. So this will necessitate the qada makeup, it will not necessitate kafara. Also, the water that remains in a person's mouth after he has rinsed his mouth and he has expelled that water, he has spat out that water, but there's still some moisture of the water that he just used to rinse his mouth remaining in his mouth. If he swallows that remaining moisture water in his mouth, that will not break the person's fast. The next thing that will break a person's fast, necessitate qada, is if a person is coerced, if a person is compelled and forced to break his fast. This will necessitate qada, not kafara. Also, if a person, he is rinsing water in his nose, he has put water in his nose, and accidentally he ingests that water, it goes into the throat or into the goes up into towards the brain. This will also necessitate qada and not kafara. The next thing that will break a person's fast is if a person, he intentionally eats or drinks or has marital relationships during the daytime while he's fasting, but he had made the intention for fasting after the Fajr time, after true dawn. This will necessitate qada and will not necessitate kafara. Next thing that will break a person's fast and necessitate qada, breakup, is if for a male, if he ejaculates due to touching or kissing his wife. Due to touching or kissing. So this will necessitate qada and not kafara. The next is if a person induces vomiting himself, he self-induces vomiting, a mouthful or more. So a person, he induces the vomiting on his own, he does not naturally vomit, and the vomit is a mouthful or more, meaning that he cannot restrain the vomit in his mouth, and the vomit it naturally comes out of his mouth because there's so much of it, he cannot restrain it in his mouth. So this will also necessitate qada the makeup and not kafara, not expiation. Another case where the vomit will break a person's fast, vomiting will break a person's fast, is if a person naturally vomits a mouthful or more, which in this case it would not break a person's fast, but then after vomiting naturally a mouthful or more, he purposely re-swallows that vomit. In that case also, uh, he will have to make up that fast, although there will be no kafara expiation. Some other things that will break a person's fast is if a person unintentionally ingests rain, snow, or blood from outside of the mouth. These things enter into a person's mouth, and on their own, they kind of are just swallowed uh, unintentionally. They are ingested unintentionally. So this will break a person's fast. It will necessitate qada, the makeup, but not kafara. Although if these things, rain, snow, or blood, enter a person's mouth from outside, and then a person intentionally swallows these things, then this will not only necessitate the qada, the makeup, it will also necessitate the kafara, expiation will have to be given. Also, if, let's say, tears or sweat, the saltiness of these can be tasted throughout the mouth, these things enter into the mouth, and then they are unintentionally swallowed, this will also necessitate qada. This will necessitate qada, and not necessitate kafara. It will not necessitate the expiation. If one bleeds from within the mouth and he basically gets cut in the mouth and there's blood comes out, and if the saliva becomes red or pink as a result of the bleeding, and this is swallowed, the fast is broken, and the qada has to be made, the makeup, without kafara. If the saliva only turns yellow or is still clear and it is swallowed even intentionally, then this fast will remain valid. If after a person eats his suhoor in the morning and then true dawn happens, the fajr time starts, and the fast has begun, if from the suhoor, let's say, there is still some food left in a person's mouth, and that food which is left in a person's mouth amounts to the size of a chickpea or more, then if a person swallows this food, uh, then this will break a person's fast. If it amounts to less than the size of a chickpea, the fast will not be invalidated, his fast will not be broken. The next thing which will break a person's fast is intentionally inhaling or ingesting smoke without the intention of enjoyment or benefit. Okay. And falling into the same category will be, for example, dust, dust particles in the air, water vapor or steam, such as from cooking or from taking a bath, or a fly which is flying in the air. If a person inhales or ingests any of these kind of substances, intentionally doing so will break a person's fast, and a person will have to make up the fast, but without kafara, without expiation. If one inhales smoke with enjoyment or for benefit, then both the qada will have to be made, the makeup of the fast will have to happen, and also a person will be required to give the expiation. If, however, a person unintentionally inhales the previous mentioned substances, if a person unintentionally inhales or ingests, like smoke or dust or water vapor, steam or fly, meaning that these things are in the air and one is simply just trying to breathe, then the fast is not invalidated. So therefore, a person will not have to make up the fast, and obviously there will be no kafara that has to be given. So when we talked about inhaling and ingesting the substance that were mentioned, these apply to substances that have a physical body and that can be seen. So if there is some kind of a fragrance or odor that is inhaled, which has no physical body, It has no physical body that can be seen, such as, for example, the scent of musk or flower, then the fast is not invalidated by smelling anything like this, by inhaling the odors of anything like this. So, therefore, obviously, there will be no makeup required and obviously no kafara.